Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a pretty large book haul, at least for me. I actually have about twice this amount, but I'm splitting it up into two videos. This is going to be a lot of the new books that I purchased either from Amazon or my local bookstore or my library, and also a few books that my mom has lent me that I just want to share with you guys that I hope to read soon. And then I have three other stacks of books over there that are more like thrifted books. I got them from Valley Village, yard sailing, things like that. I am kind of on a book buying ban now. I've picked up a lot of books over the last few months, and I'm a slow reader, so I need my book buying to not be higher than the rate I can read books. And I've also been reading a lot of books from the library, so most of these books are unread. But that's enough rambling for me. I kind of feel like I'm out of breath. I've been rushing around trying to get my makeup on and set up to film while Emmett is napping. So let me just hop right in. I have three piles of books in front of me, and I think I'm going to be putting them back on my shelves as I talk about them because there's a lot here. Okay, first on my pile, these are in no particular order. I picked up Malice by John Gwynne. I have heard both Abby and Jesse absolutely raving about this series, and just recently Stephanie from Stephanie's Bookverse mentioned that she just picked up Malice and is thinking of doing a read along in the new year. So I'm really excited for that. This is a 4-book adult fantasy series, The Faithful and the Fallen. This is book 1, obviously. These are big books. There's 4 of them in total. I believe that this has the very typical chosen one fantasy trope and turns it on his head. It's a multiple POV book as far as I know, and I've heard nothing but great things about this series, and I'm really excited to eventually get to it. Let's see. Can we keep this up? I don't know. And put them on the bookshelves? We'll see. I finally picked up Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I did read Six of Crows earlier this year in preparation for the Netflix show. I have previously read the original, or like the first part, the Grisha Trilogy. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm feeling rushed, and it's just making things even worse. This is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. If I could just read it, that would cross off a series that I need to read. If you guys missed it, I will link up in the cards the series I need to finish. I hope to finish a bunch of them before the end of the year. So this is pretty high up on my priority list because it will just cross a whole series off. This has the found family trope, which I really do enjoy. I like the Grishaverse. I think I liked Six of Crows more than the original Shadow and Bone trilogy. It just seemed a little less typical young YA fantasy, and I don't know, I just liked it more. In Six of Crows, which I have right here, you are following a group of like miscreants, I guess, delinquents, if you will, that band together. They all have different bad guy qualities and skills to participate in a heist. I preferred the book over these characters' parts that they played in the Shadow and Bone Netflix show. And it ended on a pretty big cliffhanger, I guess. Like a pretty big event happened at the end of the book. So I am excited to continue on and read the second one. I Made a Mistake by Jane Corey. I read this as part of Samantha March's membership book club. This is a thriller, a UK thriller, I believe, and it's entirely too long. I think I gave this 3 stars. There are 419 pages, and I just really didn't enjoy it all that much. Like I had a good time reading it, but it just felt like it needed to be edited down, and some of the plot twists just didn't make sense. They felt entirely too forced and came out of nowhere, and it was just like twist after twist after twist just to make the book longer is what it felt like, when a lot of that I think could have been cut out and the story still would have been pretty much the same, if that makes sense. So at least I read this one. I've talked about this on my channel before as one of the best books I read in the first half of the year. This is The First Time Gardener, Growing Vegetables by Jessica Sowards. She is a YouTuber. Their channel is Roots and Refuge Farms. They are a gardening, farming type YouTube channel and they live in Central Arkansas. And this is literally perfect for me. This was my first time being a gardener, first time trying to grow vegetables this year. And this book covers the bare bones basics and is something that I will return to for reference for years to come, even though I won't be a first-time gardener as of next year. The photography in here is just incredible, like absolutely stunning. And even if you're a seasoned gardener and you appreciate beautiful garden photography and just having something for reference, it has like times to start seeds inside versus when to transplant them based on your frost dates, and a lot of information on soil, composting, ground cover, all that kind of stuff. Like literally everything you need to know as like a very beginner is in this book, and I really, really loved it. So definitely check it out if you're interested. This goes on my other bookshelf, so I guess I'll put that on my couch. Oh my gosh. Okay, shifting gears a little bit. I picked up 3 books from my library. My library has a bookshelf of books that were donated that you can purchase, and it's $1 for a paperback and $2 for a hardcover, which is an amazing deal, especially when you can find books that are like new condition. So the first 2 I grabbed were Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. I already have Throne of Glass on my shelves, but that was the only book in this series that I had. I picked that up thrifting at one point, so I need Assassin's Blade still to start the series. I would like to start with Assassin's Blade, but this is book 2 and 3, though they're not matching. The Throne of Glass copy I have is in the paperback version. That's okay because I got this for $1 and this for $2, and they're in perfect condition. Like this is over $20 Canadian for the hardback and $15 Canadian for the paperback, and like they don't even look red. The spine is still pretty much perfect on the paperback, and I'm just really happy to have these. I'm feeling like I really need to read a lot of the like OG young adult fantasy. Like I want to read the Throne of Glass series. I want to finish off the Thorns of Court and Roses series, and as well as like the Shadow Hunter books, because I'm starting to feel like I'm getting too old for them, but I still feel the desire to read them. So I think I should do it soon. Speaking of Shadow Hunters, I found again for $2 Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This is book 2 in the Dark Artifices series. I do have Lady Midnight that I picked up at Walmart. It was like on a clearance shelf for 40% off or something, and they're not similar editions at all. And actually they do have Lady Midnight in this edition at my library, so I might go back and spend the extra $2 to have matching copies. It's only $2 and it goes to a good cause. Otherwise, I never would. I have plenty of series on my shelves that don't have matching editions. Does it kind of bother me? Yes. But in wanting to, like, prioritizing saving money over having the same editions on my shelves, I think is more important. But in this case, it only being $2 and it going to a good cause, I might go back and pick up Lady Midnight in the hardcover, and maybe they'll take a swap for it. Like I'll still pay the $2, but maybe they will want my paperback version and maybe they'll be happy with that and someone else can get the paperback. Let me show you. I have this edition of Lady Midnight with the white and black edges, and actually it was $6.99 Canadian, and that's why I picked it up. The humidity that was down in the basement before I got both my bookshelves and was able to unpack all of my books has hurt them. So I need to get them sandwiched in some big books. But now I have 1 and 2 of the Dark Artifices trilogy. I'm up to, I need to read Clockwork Angel next. I used to own the Mortal Instruments and unhauled them a long time ago because they're just not my favorite. I am rereading them, but just getting them from my library, which I think is fine. So I need to get Clockwork Angel from my library next. I don't think these are books that I will keep on my shelves long term, like forever and ever, but it's easier to own the book to read it than the library sometimes. Next up, I have From Blood and Ash and Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I have read both of these. I gave From Blood and Ash 4 stars and Kingdom of Flesh and Fire 3 stars. I will continue on with the series and pick up The Crown of Gilded Bones or something like that. I don't know how many books are going to be in the series. Maybe I should have looked that up. I have been getting these off of Amazon. I just feel like they're not that expensive and they look nice. I enjoy owning them. This is a young adult fantasy series where you're following the maiden who is raised very sheltered. She's not allowed to speak to people or her face cannot be seen. And she's going to be like sacrificed to the gods when she becomes of age. And it has changed so much from there now that I finished Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. There's definitely smutty scenes, and I have issue with some of them, not all of them. I just feel like this reads very young, though our main character is like 19, I think. Partly because she's the maiden and was very sheltered and she just doesn't know a lot of things, but I think it's more than that. And some of the smutty scenes are just so cringy to me. And I've talked about it more in my reading vlogs, but it's not a favorite series. I made an order from Book Depository to get the white editions for Brandon Sanderson. These are UK editions that are so much prettier than the Canadian/American editions. So if they have free shipping, it's just a long wait. I haven't read any of these. I picked up Warbreaker and The Way of Kings. The Way of Kings came in 2 books for like the UK editions are split up. I ordered all paperbacks. They accidentally sent me this giant hardcover, which is absolutely stunning and I'm sure very expensive. 30 pounds. I don't know what that translates to Canadian dollars. You could kill somebody with this. Like, this is actually so heavy. I am grateful to have received a hardcover, though I would have kind of preferred to have like the matching editions that I ordered. They gave me my money back and said, don't bother shipping this back. I can keep it, but that I could reorder the paperback. And I just felt silly doing that. I don't know, but knowing this is just half of this story makes me very concerned. Like, obviously the paper has to be, yeah, pretty thick and the font is pretty big, but like, this is half of a book. I'm very excited to be reading more of Brandon Sanderson, so I don't actually know that much about The Way of Kings. Let me read the synopsis. I'm sure everyone watching does know what it's about. It says, speak again the ancient oaths, life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination, and return to men the shards they once bore. The knights radiant must stand again. Roshar is a world of stone and storms, where terrifying and frequent tempests have shaped people and landscapes. It has been centuries since the fall of the Knights Radiant, but their shard blades and shard plate remain, mystical arms and armor that transform men into near-invincible warriors. Men trade kingdoms for shard blades, wars were fought for them and won by them. And now one such war fought across the shattered plains is about to swallow up a soldier, a bright lord, and a young woman scholar. I'm very excited to get to this. And then I have Warbreaker, which I believe the magic system in here has to do with colors, and it's a story of two sisters. One is going to be married off to the God King and has been trained her whole life for that, and apparently the God King is very cruel and she's almost being like sentenced to her death, I am assuming, but their father changes their mind at the last second and sends the other sister, who has not been trained for this, to go in her place. And this is a standalone right now, though Brandon Sanderson is going to be writing a sequel, but it holds up very well by itself. So I'm excited to get to this. I think I'm going to be following the reading order of the Cosmere Unbounded readathon, read along. They started like a long time ago, but I think I'd like to follow their reading order and catch up on Brandon Sanderson. I've only read Mistborn, The Final Empire, and Elantris and some of the short stories so far. But speaking of The Final Empire, these are the Canadian or American editions. I got Mistborn, which is just what it's called here instead of The Final Empire, and I just picked up The Well of Ascension as well. I'm obsessed. I've only read The Final Empire. I gave it 5 stars. I devoured this book and read it as fast as I possibly could. In this world, the magic system is based on allomancy, where you ingest metals and each metal does something different. And they are preparing for, is it called a coup? Where like a group of people rise up against the ruling body and they have like a big battle. And in this world, the ruler is like kind of immortal, and he has been ruining their lands for over 1,000 years. So they're ready to try and take them down. This also has found family elements. I need to stop rushing, but the baby's gonna wake up any second. And I just loved it so much. So this is book 1 and 2 of the first, like, era 1 of the Mistborn trilogy. This is era 1, and then there's a second era, and I'm excited to just gather up. I would love to have like a whole shelf of Brandon Sanderson. I'm also collecting Robin Hobb. I don't have any to share in this book haul, but and I would love to have like a Robin Hobb shelf. I am just like diving deep into adult fantasy, and though I've only read 2 full-length novels from Brandon Sanderson so far, and then some of his short stories like I mentioned, he's already becoming like a favorite author. Can I say that already? So I'm excited to keep gathering up his books, especially these UK editions. I think I'll get all of my Mistborns in this edition now that I have them, and then maybe all of the Stormlight books in the white editions. I don't know. We'll just have to see. I also like the UK editions of his YA sci-fi. What is that called? Starsight is the second one, right? Oh my gosh. All right, we are nearing the end. I want to show you next the books that my mom lent me. If she finds a really fun series that she enjoys and she thinks I will enjoy it as well, she just sends it my way, and then when I finally read it, I can send them back. So she sent me Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and I am very familiar with all of these books because of BookTube. I'm excited for this. This is a duology, I believe. Is there just going to be 2 books, with Vengeful being the second? And this follows Victor and Eli. They were best friends and now they're mortal enemies. In college, they were trying to discover how one gains like supernatural abilities. They realized that all the supervillains, all the superheroes had near-death experiences that kind of like unlocked their powers. So they're trying to emulate that and give themselves supernatural abilities or superpowers. And it all goes horribly wrong. I think this is a revenge story, so I'm excited for this. She also sent me Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. I'm excited to get into the Book of the Ancestor series because Books with Emily Fox really raved about this. I have heard that Mark Lawrence has done some questionable things. I haven't even looked into it because I don't want to ruin my experience reading this series. So if you are concerned with what an author gets up to before reading their book, then I encourage you to go do your research on Mark Lawrence and why. I've only heard Books with Emily Fox say something, maybe why she feels she doesn't want to read his books anymore. This is like an assassin school with nuns, which just sounds like so much fun. She also sent along the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, starting with the 5th season, then the Obelisk Gate, and finally the Stone Sky. This is a fantasy sci-fi series, and the world keeps getting hit with like all of these natural disasters, I think. Are they natural disasters? It says, this is the way the world ends for the last time. It starts with the Great Red Rift across the heart of the world's sole continent, spewing ash that bolts out the sun. It starts with death, with a murdered son and a missing daughter. It starts with betrayal and long dormant wounds rising up to fester. This is the stillness, a land familiar with catastrophe, where the power of the earth is wielded as a weapon and where there is no mercy. I really wanted to get to this in September, but with Becca's Bookopoly-thon and the Magical Readathon, I just couldn't fit it. So the 5th season has been living in my read very soon / TBR section here. I have read Home Before Dark, but these 5 books are kind of like my to read next pile. Oh my gosh, only 4 more books to go. I bought City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett, again on Jessie May's recommendations. I feel like we have very similar reading tastes, so when she says that she absolutely loves a book, I have been very likely to pick them up. She's also why I want to prioritize Lord of the Rings here pretty soon, maybe over the winter. This is kind of a fantasy mystery book where gods have ruled over these like countries, continents. This is a tale of vast conspiracy, dead gods, buried histories. City of Stairs is at once a gripping spy novel and a stunningly original work of fantasy. So these gods like ruled over these cities or countries, I'm not sure like how big of an area, and they just disappeared. So we don't know if they were murdered or they're sleeping or they have just decided to stay quiet and watch the humans, I'm assuming, kind of try and figure things out for themselves. And then we're also solving a murder. And again, like I said, Jessie May has been raving about this series and I'm excited to get to this one. My grampy sent me The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho for my birthday in January. My grandfather sends me a book for Christmas and my birthday. Though this was in January, I did want to just share it with you because I think that this is kind of like a fantasy classic. Is this fantasy? I'm not really sure. This edition is so cool. It's the 25th anniversary edition. It does have the deckled edges, which aren't my favorite, but it's still like this beautiful floppy book. It has these flaps in here. And I love that my grampy writes in the books he gives me and puts a sticky note that he likes for me to read. And I just cherish these books so much. I have my book shelves filled with books he has sent me over the years. And I will keep them forever. For example, The Root Cellar by Janet Lunn, he sent me for my 13th birthday, and I just wanted to share the most recent book that he sent my way. For my birthday that I bought myself, I picked up Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is another like fantasy sci-fi kind of hybrid book. This is in the pre-Columbian Americas. It says book 1 of the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, inspired by the civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas and woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, political intrigue, and forbidden magic. This cover is one of my favorites on my shelves. I just think it's absolutely stunning. The map here in the end papers is gorgeous. It has gold foiling on the spine. And again, I bought this because of Jessie May's recommendation. She had been raving about it, and I am really excited to get to it. It has a lot of big names, like giving blurbs on the back: S.A. Chakraborty, Stephen Graham Jones, R.F. Kuang. Lots of people seem to be loving this book. I don't think I've heard a single negative review. And not lastly, 2 more book club picks for Samantha March's book club. We have A Little Bit of Grace by Phoebe Fox. I surprisingly loved this. I don't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars, but it was amazing. In this book, you are following Grace, who is a lawyer, and she lives in a small town with her husband, who is also a lawyer. They share a family-run law firm where like his family and her family have owned it for generations, and then they got together and owned it together. But they get a divorce, and she has been spiraling and just kind of pretending that it never happened, though they each moved back into their respective family homes, like childhood homes. They still work together, they still have lunch together and talk all the time, but they're just not married. And then he brings home a new girlfriend to introduce to his ex-wife, and she basically has a mental breakdown and goes on vacation to discover herself. And there was amazing trans rep of, I believe that it was amazing. I really enjoyed that aspect. I cannot speak on it too much, obviously, because I am not a member of the trans community, but it was woven into the story so well, and I really appreciated that, because this was not sold to me as like an LGBTQ plus rep book, and it was really surprising when there was like reveals or whatever. Anyways, I really enjoyed this book. And lastly, I've just started this week, Darling Rose Gold by Stephanie Roble. Again, Samantha March's book club for September. We're discussing this in a couple of days, so I need to get it read. This is based off of the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story where she killed her mother, who had Munchausen's by proxy. But in this version, it's a thriller. Our main character is named Rose Gold, and it's unclear if her mother has Munchausen's by proxy or she is just extremely cruel. But much like Gypsy Rose Blanchard, like slowly poisoning her, tons of operations and doctors, wheelchair, shaved head, all of that. But in this story, Rose Gold blows the whistle and her mother goes to jail. And now her mother has served her sentence, and Rose Gold has agreed for her mother to move in with her, which shocks everybody. But Rose Gold is not the sickly little girl that she once was. It's already creepy, and I'm on page 44. So I'm really excited to finish this and discuss it with Samantha March's book club. But I feel like I need a drink. I've been talking for over half an hour. Wow. This is a lot of books, and like I said, I've been buying a lot more. At least my shelves don't look so empty anymore. I'm pretty good that if I read a book and I don't think I will ever reread it, I unhaul it pretty easily and just pass it along to somebody else. There is lots of local consignment bookstores, or donate it to my library for them to sell. And there's also another bookseller in my area that donates all the money to charity and sells books for very cheap. So I like keeping, the books coming in and out. Unless I absolutely loved it, gave it 4 or 5 stars, then I hold on to it, and I do reread books occasionally. But yeah, no more books for me for a little while. I need to work out a system. Maybe like if I read 5 of my owned TBR, then I'm allowed to buy one, or maybe I have to read 10 and then I can place an order for 2 books, because that just seems more satisfying to me than buying 1 book at a time. Maybe that's just me. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Let me know what you think that I should prioritize and read as soon as I can. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.